All praises to the Most High, YAHAYAH, and to his son, YAHAYAH, Messiah, YAHAYAH. This is Brother Holly with the first Spirit of Truth broadcast here on the YAHAYAH House channel, as well as the House of YAHAYAH channel on this set-apart Sabbath day. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to the great I am, he who is, was, and is to come, the Almighty One, YAHAYAH, and to his son, YAHAYAH, Messiah, who gave himself for us that we might have life, and that life is in him, YAHAYAH. Now, in this first broadcast, children, I'm going to touch on something as a platform, if you will, to future teachings. The Most High has kind of laid it on my heart to start bringing out more of what the Apocryphal books say in light of what the New Testament says, and to ensure that our people are well equipped to give an answer to all those who question us about the hope that is in us and the things in which we ascend to or use as to formulate our doctrine and practice. We want to make sure, children, that what we teach and what we practice comes from the scriptures and the scriptures themselves. But when it comes to the Apocryphal books, you might get a lot of pushback from your Constantine Christian friends, relatives, neighbors, even the ones who are Hebrews themselves, who are locked away in that slippery slope lie of Constantine Christianity dogma. It's not doctrine, it's dogma. And believing in universalism, as they were taught under the whip. And an aside for your own personal study is look up and get and download a PDF copy, because it's free, of the Slave's Bible. There is such a thing as the Slave's Bible. Look it up, download it, and then glance through it. And what you'll discover, child, is that the Slave's Bible is has been completely obliterated. It doesn't contain the entirety of the text. Whole books are missing from the Slave Bible. And this was the Bible used by the slaveholders to teach the slaves Constantine Christianity. It had nothing about the Exodus from Egypt. It had nothing about the law, the ceremonial law, the food laws, nothing about it. Nothing about being all one in Messiah, nothing like that. Had nothing about not much from the prophets, if anything at all. Nothing that would lead you to understand, Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy 29, Deuteronomy 30, all gone. All Leviticus gone. So you would not ever, if that's the only Bible you ever came in contact with, ever think of yourself as nothing more than a filthy Gentile. A son or daughter of Ham, and not a son or daughter of YAHAYAH. All praises. So get your hands on a copy of the Slave Bible, if you can, and know the truth, and may the truth set you free, that this is the Bible that the Constantine Christians in the 1800s used to keep our people in bondage, to keep us away from the truth as found in the scriptures. What I'm holding up now is the Holy Bible 1611 King James Version. This Bible, which is complete with the Apocryphal books, was in existence before the Slave Bible. They didn't teach us from this. This was around. See, 1611. This book was around when they were keeping our people a slave in the Western Hemisphere. But they were not going to teach you from this book. This book has Deuteronomy 28 in it. This book has Leviticus. This book has a full copy of the prophets. This book has the Gospels in it. This book has Romans chapter 9 in it, that says that all these things belong to the children of YASHARAHLA. The covenants, the promises, the Messiah coming. This book has all those things, all the prophecies of saving Jacob. of Jacob being his inheritance, the lot of his inheritance. All that's in here, but not in the slave Bible. So you can run the comparison if you like, if you have a copy of this. And the only reason I'm holding this up, child, is, again, we're laying the foundation of why we can use the apocryphal books and teach what the New Testament says from the apocryphal books. Is that when the Bible was first put into English and widespread, especially in the Western Hemisphere and around the world, the 1611 King James, it contained the apocryphal books. And I'm going to show them to you right now, that they're in here. This won't take long. And so when your Constantine Christian friend tells you that the apocrypha is not in the Bible, you see, it says bookies called apocrypha. And I'm trying to get it to focus. Bear with me, child. You see Tobit, 2nd Esdras, Judith, the rest of Esther, Wisdom, Ecclesiasticus, the songs of the three children, the story of Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, the prayer of Manasseh, 1st and 2nd Maccabees. Those are the apocryphal books that were found in the Holy Bible when it was first published in the Western Hemisphere in 1611. This is the copy that the early Christians in the Western Hemisphere, the slaveholders, had. And this ain't the one they taught the slaves from. Not at all. That is something else called the slave Bible for you, child of Jacob. A Bible that didn't talk about the things that would make you pleasing unto the Most High. So yeah, you learn to eat pork. You learn to go to church on Sunday. You learn to postpone your deliverance till the day you die. But we're going to read from the apocryphal books of the edition of Esther, and I'm going to show you something here at the first part of this broadcast, since we're laying the foundation with this. I'm going to show you something that even something as widespread in use amongst our people as the Sefer or the Sefer is, so many of our people of the Hebraic faith, they almost swear by the Sefer. They swear by it. But the Sefer contains within it a version of the edition of Esther which is completely a 180 away from what the edition of Esther found in the 1611 King James Bible says. This is the Hebraic copy of the edition of Esther. This one has the Greek copy of it. And they are not the same. They're not even close. So I'm going to read something from chapter 10 in the edition of Esther from the King James. And I'm going to read it. Well, I'm going to attempt to read it. I'm going to read chapter 10 of the edition of Esther from the Sefer, and you'll see the difference. Let's go. All praises. We're laying the foundation. And what I'm going to read here from the edition of Esther is found in the New Testament. This very language is found in the New Testament. The edition of Esther, chapter 10. Let's start at verse 6. Edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 6. A little fountain became a river, and there was light, and the sun, and much water. This river is Esther, whom the king married and made queen. And the two dragons are I and Aman. Will you highlight, if you got it? The edition of Esther, chapter 10, from the 1611 King James Bible. The edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 7 again. And the two dragons are I and Aman. And the nations were those that were assembled to destroy the name of the Yahudim, or the Jews. And my nation is this YASHARAHLA, which cried to YAHAYAH and were saved. For YAHAYAH hath saved his people with YAHAYAH, and YAHAYAH hath delivered us from all those evils, and YAHAYAH hath wrought signs and great wonders, which have not been done among the Gentiles. Will you highlight? Now we're reading the edition of Esther, chapter 10, and that was verse 9. I'll read it again. And my nation is YASHARAHLA, which cries to YAHAYAH and were saved. For YAHAYAH hath saved his people, and YAHAYAH hath delivered us from all those evils. And YAHAYAH has wrought signs and great wonders, which have not been done among the Gentiles. Therefore hath he made two lots. Because YAHAYAH of YASHARAHLA saved his people, because he worked great signs among them, which he did not do amongst the heathen, which he did not do amongst the nation. Because of this, he made two lots. Let's see it. This is the edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 10, from the 1611 King James. Therefore have he made two lots, one for the people of YAHAYAH, and another for all the Gentiles. Will you highlight? So we learned something very, very clear right here. In the edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 10, the Most High got two lots of people. One lot is made up of his people, and verse 7 told us who they are. For this people is YASHARAHLA. And verse 10 tells us that he made up a lot of his people, and we have two lots. One for his people, which are YASHARAHLA, and the other for all the Gentiles, for the rest of the nations. So either you're in one or two lots. Either you're of YASHARAHLA or you're a Gentile. Let's see what happens to the lots. I'll read verse 10 again. Edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 10, from the 1611 King James. Therefore have he made two lots, one for the people of YAHAYAH, and another for all the Gentiles. And these two lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before YAHAYAH among all nations. Did not Messiah tell you that it's going to be a day where he's going to sit on the throne of his glory and judge the nations and separate the sheep from the goats in Matthew's gospel? Did not see, like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, we are building upon the concepts and teachings of the New Testament that are found in the Apocryphal books. And we're going to read from the edition of Esther found in this book, the Sefer, chapter 10, and see if it agrees with what's found in the Holy Bible, 1611 King James Version of the edition of Esther. Just to show that you can't trust this. Well, I'm going to read it in a minute. I'm showing you this. You can't trust this. Because it doesn't say what we're reading. Let's read. Let's read it again. The edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 11. And these two lots, which were the two lots? Verse 10. Therefore he hath made two lots, one for the people of YAHAYAH, and another for all the Gentiles. And these two lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before YAHAYAH among all nations. So YAHAYAH remembered his people and justified his inheritance. How many times in the scriptures are the children of YASHARAHLA referred to as his people or his inheritance? I dare say over 100. But if any of you know, put it in the comment section. Therefore those days shall be unto them in the month of Adar, the 14th and 15th day of the same month, with an assembly and joy, and with gladness before YAHAYAH, according to the generations forever among his people. The day in which we were judged and justified when the lot of the heathen is gone, and the only lot that remains that is saved is his people, the children of YASHARAHLA. Why do we know that his people are the children of YASHARAHLA? Let's go back to verse 9. And my nation is YASHARAHLA, which cried to YAHAYAH and were saved. It says over here that two lots came and he remembered his people and justified or saved his inheritance. So who are the people that are being saved? That's YASHARAHLA. Did not the Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 11 say all YASHARAHLA shall be saved? He sure did. In Romans chapter 11 verse 26. So all YASHARAHLA shall be saved. Did he not pray in Romans chapter 10 verse 1 for YASHARAHLA to be saved? Here we're reading in the apocryphal book of the edition of Esther chapter 10 verse 10 how this salvation is going to happen after having it described to us that the Most High is going to create two lots, one for his people of YASHARAHLA and another one for all the Gentiles. And both lots are going to appear before the throne of judgment on that day of judgment to be judged. And he's going to save his people and justify his inheritance. Therefore, those days shall, verse 13, therefore, after he justifies his inheritance, therefore those days shall be unto them in the month of Adar, the 14th and 15th day of the same month. This is the day of judgment. With an assembly and joy and with gladness before YAHAYAH, according to the generations forever among his people. Now, let's read from the Sefer, the edition of Esther, chapter 10. Let's see, it should say the same thing, should it not? Just gotta get it here. Thank you for your patience. So we're reading from the Sefer, which so many of my brothers and sisters, my brethren, according to the flesh, so many of YASHARAHLA, so many of the tribes of Jacob, so many of us who have been awakened, read from this book and trust it. Hopefully after the day it will stand in doubt. And you'll see it as it is in fact meant to deceive you, meant to have you trust it and not seek out truth outside of it. Let's read the edition of Esther chapter 10 verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the Sefer of records of the chronicles that were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai was told of the Brigtan and Teresh, two of the king's chambermen, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ashkenavosh. And the king said, with honor and dignity has been done unto Mordecai for this. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done of him. Verse 4. And the king said, who is the court? How Haman has come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai from on the gallows. And he prepared for him. What? I just read the first 4 verses of the edition of Esther chapter 10. Let's read them over here. Then Mardoneus said, YAHAYAH have done these things, for I remember the dream which I saw concerning these matters, and nothing therefore hath failed. That's verse 2. It starts at verse 5. Verse 6. A little fountain became a river, and there was... Okay, let's start reading here at verse 5. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman stands in the court. And the king said, let him come in. All right, let's read verse 5 over here. In the edition of Esther that's found in the Holy Bible, King James Version. Then Mardoneus said, YAHAYAH have done these things. For I remembered a dream which I saw concerning these matters, and nothing therefore has failed. Ain't nothing like what the Sefer says. Let's read verse 6 in the truth. A little fountain, this is the addition of Esther chapter 10, verse 6. A little fountain became a river, and there was light and sun and much water. This river is Esther, who the king married and made queen. Let's read 6 over here. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to honor more than myself? What? Oh, the key verse about the 2 lots. Verse 10 in the Sefer, the addition of Esther chapter 10, verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, and you have said and do so to Mordecai, the Jew that sits in the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that you have spoken. Man, that's almost close. At least it has the phrase, nothing thereof have failed, which verse 5 said. That's a phrase. Got one phrase in verse 10 of the edition of Esther chapter 10 in the Sefer that's found in the edition of Esther chapter 10 in the Holy Bible. But this is what verse 10 reads again. Therefore have he made 2 lots, one for the people of YAHAYAH and another for all the Gentiles. That's what the edition of Esther in the Holy Bible says. Well, what about the Sefer? The edition of Esther chapter 10 verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, and you said, and do even so to Mordecai, the Jew that sits in the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that you have spoken. Verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor. Nothing about no 2 lots. Nothing about the day of judgment. Nothing about it. I'm sorry. If you paid your money like I did, I got a couple of these. If you paid your money like I did for these, you can't trust it. Sorry. You can't trust it. You can't trust it. You've seen me read from this before. His word, Hebrew, Israelite scriptures, 400 years of slavery. And we read from the edition of Esther here. All praises. It is the same I don't want you to have to take my word for anything, children. That's why I spend the time to look it up. So you don't take my word for nothing. No taking Brother Holly's word for a thing. Found it. The edition of Esther, chapter 10, verse 10. Therefore have he made 2 lots, one for the people of YAHAYAH and another for all the Gentiles. And these 2 lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before YAHAYAH among all nations. So YAHAYAH remembered his people and justified his inheritance. Therefore, those days shall be unto them in the month of Adar, the 14th and 15th day of the same month, with an assembly, and join with gladness before YAHAYAH, according to the generations forever among his people. Exact word for word what is found in the Holy Bible, 1611 King James. So, you can trust the Apocrypha found in here. You cannot trust the Apocrypha found in here. Can't trust it. Sorry. That's not the only thing they've changed. They've changed words and phrases, and there are other teachers out there who have picked the Sefer apart, and for good reason. Like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, this is to lay the foundation for not only sourcing. The only reason I showed you that the Holy Bible contained in its initial rendering in 1611, the King James Version, it contained the Apocryphal books. So for all your Constantine Christian brothers and sisters, when you read from the Apocryphal books, they say, "Oh, that's not in the Bible." You can point back, truthfully point back, and say, when the King James Bible was first printed in 1611, these books were in it. These books they were only segregated by type, just like the Old Testament and New Testament books are. And if you want to be technical about it, I believe they were taken out in the 1760s. That's when they removed them. So for over 100 years, the books of the Apocryphal books were in the King James Bible. For over 100 years. For a century. Over a century. So, let's hit the conclusion of the matter. The Most High has made two lots. One for his people, and one for all the Gentiles. He's made two lots, as the Messiah called them. One lot of sheep and another lot of goats. And to the sheep he said, "Come, blessed of my Father, and come into the inheritance which is yours from the foundation of the world." What did he say to all the Gentiles? "Depart from me, you wicked, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels." Two lots. He's going to justify his people and save his inheritance. Rejoice, Jacob, for you are in the lot of salvation. All praises to the Most High, YAHAYAH, and to his son, YAHAYAH Messiah, YAHAYAH.